that the EPCs are changing, and the government are trying to push for EPC C and above by 2030. Um, it's a massive statement that is extremely difficult to deliver on because a lot of buildings in the UK, specifically heritage buildings, or even like, for example, the property I'm in here, which is a pile of that was thrown up after the war, they're not that great, single skin, and they're very difficult to bring from a viability of finance perspective to a good grade. There is exemption, and I believe the exemption at the moment is, I think, doubling. And an exemption is when you can prove that the amount of capital that you would spend, for an example, um, doesn't really outweigh, and also your affordability can't sort of cater for that. But I've got a bit of a summary of what we can expect, because there's changes coming in on the 1st of April 2027. I do think there's a bit of tact to get ahead of it, basically. So one thing that's baffled me about EPC energy performance is we've got some properties which I know are quite efficient, and some properties which I know are not efficient, but the grading system isn't relative to the actual performance of the building. It's almost like a very inaccurate way that they're currently structuring it. I think the main issue that we're having at the moment, I think the foundations of it are cool. They're fabric first, heating systems, smart readiness, and energy cost focused. Um, the fabric first is essential. Like, why would you try and put a really efficient heating system in a property if you're losing heat? If it's going into the house at a cheap cost, that doesn't necessarily, or a green cost to the planet, or whatever it may be, that doesn't necessarily improve things if your building is just a leaky, inefficient property. Obviously, with new building regulations, they've upped everything. So insulation's increased, improvements to pretty much everything from an energy performance has been so radically attacked that they do believe with new homes, cooling is going to be more of a problem than heating. So the net gain of heat of a building, whether it's windows or how efficient it is going to become more of a problem, which is weird to think about that in the UK, because everyone thinks the UK is a cold place, especially in the winter, and everyone's under blankets in the winter. But the new buildings, if built correctly, um, should be a lot more efficient. But we're talking about existing buildings, retrofitting, landlord ownership. If you've got to try and hit that EPCC by 2030. And the most important thing for today's episode is that isn't news for us. We've known about this change that's coming in, but one change that is coming on the 1st of April is they're changing how they grade EPCs, which I think is good, because when we do a development, we often would, let's say we've got a 20 unit building. This is an actual example. So we got, well, at 21 to be precise, we got a 21 unit scheme, and we know that the cost and green cost of running the units as electric is in the long term going to be better. So we fit the ones that we keep as typically completely electric in some instances, with very efficient systems within the properties. We then know, but that will perform less on an EPC unless you've absolutely slapped on air source heat pumps, PVs, etc. You're not going to get that grading up the EPC ladder. So if we're selling, we will typically just fit gas, because it's easy, it's cheap, it's cost effective, it performs currently higher than full electric without any renewable source energy on site. And it sells better because we can get those units up to a B, potentially an A, even with gas, which is a fossil fuel. So the system is of grading is broken. So I'm pleased to see this. Methodology is going to focus around the home energy model, which is HEM, and focus around the current SAP sort of assessment process. But the future policy compliance rules will likely reference HEM based EPCs. So the relative thing for you as a listener, as a landlord, if you've got property, is even if you do nothing to your property, come the 1st of April, it may grade differently. So it's a good idea. Two things. If you are an EPC, I would say sort of potentially D, but definitely C upwards. So C, B, or A. get all of your properties in your whole portfolio tested before the 1st of April and get your EPC certificate, which will last 10 years. So you don't need to do a new EPC under the new methodology until your existing EPC expires. The reason I say that is because if you're a C today and the new grading comes in on the 1st of April and you've had a lapsed CV in May, you may then be a D or an E and have to make change to that property. Whereas if you got the ticket as a C today in today's grading, you may not need to change anything for 10 years. So it's kind of a little bit of a game to time things a little bit better. That's rule number one. Rule number two is get an EPC assessor to actually consult you on the changes. Hopefully you have someone that is aware of the changes that are coming in, that can go into your properties and say, actually, I think you'll probably do better come April the 1st, then you're not in a mad rush. So I think it's worthwhile doing a portfolio overview, getting everything boxed in that you think might worsen before the April 1st, get everything, and then everything that you think might better, you're under less scrutiny to get it all done before the 1st of April. The reason I'm saying this now is guess what everyone else is going to be doing before the 1st of April? Exactly this. We've got over a year, so you kind of want to time it, so you book it all in. Equally, you might need to do some easy tweak works. Like if you haven't got smart energy systems within your houses, I'd highly recommend it because they're easy wins. Typically, putting in rock wool in the loft, if you haven't got a converted loft, is an easy win. There's certain things that you can do where you make a drastic effect on the EPC performance. If you do need to upgrade it, there are EPC assessors out there that can look at your existing EPC documentation and advise what you would need to do to improve it. The EPC register is in the public domain, so you can go on any of your properties. You can look at the current EPC, and on your current EPC at the bottom, it shows you the changes that you can make to your property. And what I would recommend doing is on each property, do a spreadsheet where you've got the items that you can change and then the relative cost that it will cost you and then the return that it will bring in terms of an EPC. So you can work out what your pound per value back is. Because there's some things like this property I'm living in is single skin. If I wanted to really change the EPC performance of this building, I've already insulated the loft. I've already got a smart patterned heating system. I've got TRV valves on the radiators. I've got a gas boiler with a megaflow tank, which helps performance because it's generating relatively quite efficiently. But the problem is it's a single skin building it has got double glazing, but we're losing a lot of heat through the fabric of the building. So I'd have to actually externally or internally build in a cavity wall with insulation. That cost is astronomical to the value that you're getting back. So there are other easier wins that you can generate. So just worthwhile considering and going through that cost analysis, and EPC assessors or consultants should be able to help with this.